The United States has everything: money, facilities, elite coaches, world-class infrastructure, and yet they don't produce football legends at the same level as Brazil or Argentina. That makes me think a little that a country with over 300 million and some of the best athletes in the world in other sports like basketball, swimming, or even running, and still not a single world-class player. Even El Salvador got magico Gonzalez, that in the words of Maradona, he was better than him. So it doesn't make any sense to me, because if football was just about resources, the US should dominate, but they don't. Not even close. And here's the strange part. It's not because Americans lack talent. It's not because they don't work hard. It's not even because they don't care about the sport anymore. The real reason is something most people never look at. Something built into the system itself. A system that, from the very beginning, filters out the players who could actually make the difference. So the real question isn't, why are Americans not that good at football? It's, what is stopping them from becoming great? Most people think the problem is simple. They just don't have the talent. But that's not true, because they have had great players like Clint Dempsey, Landon Donovan, and the more recent story of Christian Pulisic. That's a clear sign that the United States has some of the best athletes in the world. Speed, strength, explosiveness. They dominate sports like the NFL and the NBA, so the raw ability is there, more than enough. The real problem is where that talent goes. Because from a young age, the system doesn't guide players toward football. It pushes them somewhere else. Scholarships, school programs, clear career paths, all pointing toward other sports. And the players who could become great footballers, they often never even try, or they leave early. So it's not a lack of talent, it's a misdirection of talent. But even for the players who stay, even for the kids who choose football from the beginning, there's another problem. One that changes everything. This is where everything starts to break. Because in the United States, football isn't just about talent. It's about money. From a young age, kids don't just play. They pay club fees, travel costs, private coaching, tournaments, year after year. Thousands of dollars just for a chance to develop. And that changes everything, because now the system isn't selecting the most talented players. It's selecting the ones who can afford it. Think about that. Some of the best players in the world come from nothing, like Cristiano Ronaldo, Vinicius Jr., Maradona. They grow up playing in the streets. They play because they have no other option. That pressure creates something different: hunger, creativity, instinct. But in the US, that environment barely exists, because if you can't pay, you don't play. And that means something dangerous. The next great player might never even enter the system, not because he isn't good enough, but because he was filtered out before he had the chance. And once that happens, everything else is already compromised. Because you're not building from the best talent pool, you're building from the most accessible one, and that's a completely different level. But even for the players who make it through, there's still something missing. Something you can't buy, something you can't teach the same way. In most football countries, the game starts in the streets, like Brazil, Argentina, even in France. No coaches, no structure, no rules. Just you and the ball and your creativity. Kids play for hours. They experiment. They fail and try again. That's where flair comes from. That's where instinct is built. Because when you grow up like that, you don't think about the game. You feel it. You are passionate about it. But in the United States, that environment barely exists. Football is organized, structured, coached, controlled. From the very beginning, drills, systems, instructions. Everything is planned. And while that creates discipline, it also limits freedom and creativity. Players learn what to do, but not always how to improvise. They become efficient, but not unpredictable. And at the highest level, that difference matters a lot. Because the players who change games aren't just well-trained, they're creative and spontaneous. They see things others don't. They try things others wouldn't. And that comes from playing freely, from making mistakes, from discovering the game on your own. Without that, something is missing. And even if you fix everything else, there's still another problem. One that quietly takes away the very best athletes. In most countries, football is the main sport, the dream, the path. If you're talented, you play football. As simple as that. But in the United States, that's not the case. Because football isn't competing with nothing. It's competing with everything. The NFL, the NBA, baseball. Those are the main sports in USA. Track and field. Entire industries built to attract the best athletes. Scholarships, college systems, massive salaries, national attention. So if you're a top-level athlete in the US, you have more options. And most of those options offer a clearer path. More money, more visibility, more opportunity. So what happens? The fastest players go to the NFL. The most explosive go to the NBA. The strongest choose other sports. And football It gets what's left, not bad athletes, but not always the best ones. And at the highest level, that difference is huge because elite football isn't just about skill. It's about combining skill with top-tier athletic ability. Just look Cristiano and Mbappe. When you lose that, you lose something critical. And that's why even when the system works, even when players develop properly, there's still a gap. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Because the difference isn't just physical, it's psychological. There's a fundamental difference in how players are created. In the United States, players are developed. In other parts of the world, players are forged, like Brazilians are made in the favelas. That difference matters more than anything. Because in structured systems, everything is designed to help you improve. Coaches guide you, facilities support you, paths are clear, you're protected. But in countries where football is survival, there's no protection. You play to escape out of poverty. You play to be seen. You play because it might be your only way out. Every game matters. Every touch matters. Because if you're not good enough, someone else takes your place. And that pressure, it creates something different. Not just skill, intensity, urgency, fearlessness. Players don't wait for instructions. They act, they take risks, they fight for every moment and every ball. Because nothing is guaranteed. There's always a player waiting behind you. But in a system where everything is structured, where progression is planned, that edge can disappear. Not because players aren't trying, but because they don't have to survive. And that's the difference. One system builds players, the other creates competitors who refuse to fail. And at the highest level, that mentality shows. But here's the twist. Things are starting to change. Despite everything, things are shifting slowly but noticeably. Because the system that held players back for years is beginning to evolve. More academies are opening, more clubs are investing in development, more players are moving to Europe earlier, and that changes everything. For the first time, talent isn't being trapped inside the system, it's escaping it. Players are getting exposed to real competition, different styles, higher intensity, and you can see the difference. The new generation looks sharper, more technical, more confident, more adaptable. Names like Christian Pulisic, Weston McKennie, Gio Reyna, they didn't follow the traditional path. They stepped outside the system, and it shows. Because now you're starting to see glimpses, moments where US players look like they belong at the highest level. Not just technically, mentally. But here's the reality. It's still early. The system hasn't fully changed yet. And until it does, that gap will remain. Which leads to the final question. So why aren't Americans as good at football? It's not talent. It's not effort. It's not even passion. It's the system, a system that filters talent instead of finding it. That structures the game instead of letting it grow. That competes with other sports instead of dominating. And when you combine all of that, you don't get bad players. You get limited ones. Players who are trained well but not always pushed to their limits. Players who understand the game but don't always feel it. And at the highest level, that difference is everything. Because football isn't just about ability, it's about instinct. Creativity, pressure, chaos. The things you can't fully teach. The things you have to live. And that's why countries with less resources sometimes produce more talent. Because their system doesn't protect players. It challenges them. But here's the key. This isn't permanent. Because as the system evolves, as opportunities expand, as more players break out of the traditional path, everything can change. The US doesn't lack potential. It just hasn't unlocked it yet. And when it does, that conversation might look very different.